And good Tuesday morning, everyone. I have to
Yeah.
say, there was actually a chill in the air today. I don't know if it's because fall might be trying to sneak in during Hottober or if it's because we're on our second episode of Spooktober.
Okay, I wore
Oh.
a sweatshirt in honor of the coolness. I'm just saying.
Okay, but let's
But-
be real. Where Meg's at, it's much colder than here. So we sound like a bunch of pansies to her because we're like, ooh, it's 86. Break out our jackets. And
Yeah.
she's like,
Now-
what? That's summer.
Now,
What
wait
are you
a
talking
second.
about?
It
Okay,
was
where is
64
Meg
this
from?
morning. It was 64 this morning.
It is
Okay.
cold for Texas. Where are you from, Meg?
I live in Minnesota. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, gotcha. I grew up
Yeah,
for 7 years.
we're tough up here, and
Yep.
64 is a beautiful, beautiful summer day. So
Summer day. We're like, ooh, it's cold. It's fall. Fall's in the
no,
air.
actually, it does get hot here in the summer, but it may get up to 64 today. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh, it may.
That's
There we go.
high.
It may.
The high, oh my goodness. That was our low, okay? Oh man.
And that
Yeah.
point, we're pulling out the sweatshirts. I'm just saying.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now we're pulling out the jackets then.
Yeah, I'm saying
Yeah, my winter
sweatshirt
coat.
yourself. I'm getting a jacket.
My winter coat comes out when it gets close to my age. I'm just saying. I'm not going to tell you.
Okay,
I'm
that's
going to tell you.
fair.
I'm going to own it. 49. It gets near 49. I have the winter coat out.
Oh. No, that's fair. That's fair. 49 is a little chilly. I hear you. Yes.
I'm the one who likes the heat, so
Okay.
yeah, about 70 I'm wearing a jacket.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
we're tough up here. So I mean, you'll see Minnesotans. We still are in our shorts when there's snow on the ground. We can tough it out. So,
Yeah,
Oh,
but we
my
have
goodness.
4 seasons, which is nice.
I'm
Yes.
hibernating.
That's fair.
Now we would like to welcome you to our show, The Con Hour.
Thank you.
Everybody, Meg Hafdahl. She is a horror author, and she does have a bunch out, which y'all are gonna probably hear a bunch of it today. But here's her website for those who are interested in going to read her books, purchasing her books. Now, one thing I do want to ask is, what inspires you to get into horror? Like, I know it inspired me to get into fantasy and
Mhm.
actually even write a Western, but what about horror?
Well, that's a good question. And I know a lot of people, when they meet me, I'm a pretty chipper, happy person, and they're kind of surprised sometimes that I write horror. I wish I had this amazing answer for you. But from the time I was little, I just was absolutely enthralled with anything horror, whether it be a movie, a TV show, or a book. And, I think there's something to be said about there is that sort of fantasy element because it's a lot of times extreme things are happening. And we get to see characters have the worst day of their lives. Most horror movies or worst horror books, that is the worst thing that character is going to experience. And we get to see if they sink or swim. And I think that there's some empathy building within horror, actually a lot of it, because we not only are putting ourselves in their shoes, but we're also, experiencing along with them all these crazy things. And at the end of the day, I just love suspense, tension, gothic elements, gore, all of it.
So I have to ask from the female perspective, whenever I watch
Yes.
horror movies, I always cringe when the girl's running and twists her ankle. She doesn't do that in yours, does it?
Yes, and so slasher movies like that obviously have kind of that tradition of where there's the one girl who's the final girl, and she's
Mhm.
going to survive till the very end, and then all the other girls seem to die, right? And they all
Mhm.
seem to trip, or they all seem to go run up the stairs when they should run down, and those kinds of things. And those are tropes that you'll find in slasher films.
Mhm.
But yeah, every once in a while it's like, oh, come on. And
Yeah.
that's why I like different kinds of horror too. I mean, I'm a slasher fan, but I love, when the woman can be the antagonist, or
Yes.
there's all sorts of
She
different
can
kinds
be
of
evil.
horror, but yeah.
I'm all for that.
Mhm.
Oh, definitely. Now, you kept talking, and it's with all horror films because we've all seen them. Why is it that the guy is never the final one to survive?
Mhm.
It's always the female. I
Well-
want to
Well-
know why. And my perspective is like, I wouldn't run upstairs into a bathroom and hide. I'd get the hell out and have the gun ready.
Right?
I'm with you. It's like sometimes you watch these things and you're just like, why did you do that?
Yeah, there's this there's my co-author in some of my nonfiction books, Kelly Florence. She's a communications teacher, and she teaches something called the Johari window, which is this concept that we don't know what we're going to do until we're actually in that thing, until we're in that experience. And I kind of like the idea that, like, we all think we would react a certain way, but if there was like a 20-foot spider coming at you, like, maybe you
I'm
wouldn't
out of
react the way you think you'd react. Maybe you wouldn't be as badass as you think you would be, So
I'd throw a
kinda-
match or a
like-
lighter at it and I'd be out of there.
Yeah, I was going to say a spider might be a little bit different.
Okay.
I'm gone.
Yeah, I mean, and to answer your question, why isn't it a final guy? And I mean, of course, sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes it is. I think because there's something inherently female about horror, which I think surprises people when I say that, because when they're thinking, a lot of times when they think horror, they just think slasher. They think Friday the 13th, they think Jason, they think stabbing women, and there are those really misogynistic type of movies. But horror goes back to Mary Shelley and the Bronte sisters, and it's a long tradition of sort of women using this genre to kind of reflect the horrific things that go on in their lives. So I think that's why perhaps in slashers and in a lot of films there's that final girl, because she's representing kind of a big audience of horror, which is actually female. Hopefully she gets to win, and then in the next movie Jason comes back and kills more people. But
Yes.
That's quite interesting with you saying that a lot of females are more into horror than guys, because I just went to Terror Isle, which just opened up a couple of weeks ago, and I actually, in my head, I think I can actually see more females there than there were guys. So
yeah,
it is quite interesting to see the difference. I think guys are more into the thriller, suspense, car chases, and stuff like that than they are the horror.
Well, and it's interesting. I have a book coming out on the 19th, Science of Serial Killers, and women seem to be drawn to true crime at a much higher rate than men. So there's certain aspects. I mean, I know my mom, for example, like she was kind of one of those. She was very fixated on true crime when I was growing up. She loved all the Anne Rule books and watched Unsolved Mysteries and all that stuff with me. And yet again, she wouldn't watch a horror movie. Like, she would watch a suspense movie about a Ted Bundy type character or a documentary, but she doesn't want any like creatures or anything like that. So there are women like that too. And so I think everyone kind of runs the gamut of what kind of horror they like. I have a pretty like open idea of what horror is, and some people have a more like narrow idea of what it is, but I think everyone likes a little scare and a little suspense, even in their fantasy or romance books. I think everyone is kind of thrives on that little bit of terror. Maybe not everyone, almost everyone.
Just a little bit. I do have a theory on the guy thing, though. Inevitably, I'm going to use the word most men like to protect the woman, and so they almost make themselves the shield, and so the woman's more apt to get away. Just a theory tossing out there.
Yeah.
Oh, like why they don't make it to the end.
Oh, maybe.
Because they're trying to make sure that they're protecting the woman, and so they put themselves in the front. And yeah, I know Greg's going to take off.
Oh my goodness.
For his wife, but what I'm saying is,
You see the spider, I'm throwing the woman in front of my house.
no.
I don't want to know.
Throwing a lighter and running. I don't do spiders.
I mean, I don't know. I agree with you though, Meg. So my mom, when I grew up, my mom loved, now it's like the ID channel, but like the true crime, the unsolved mysteries, that haunting voice of the unsolved mysteries back in the day.
Yeah.
I grew up on those. My mom still watches those. She's like fascinated. So I grew up with those. And now I love like gore, horror. That's me. But slasher movies, but I like B movies too. They're funny, but I feel like they try really hard, right? So if you don't want to be scared, but you are into that, those are good, for me. But I would say probably my friend, because I know that you have your serial killer book, which you mentioned is coming up. It's coming out next week, right? The 19th?
The 19th, yeah. So, yeah.
So I know in American Horror Story, the one where they did the summer camp, they were going through serial killers, I believe. And was it Richard Ramirez or it was one of those?
Yeah.
I know that you did research on him for your nonfiction book. And so I would
we
love
got
to know
interview
how that
him,
went.
actually. We got to interview the actor, and that was really cool because, we want to approach serial killers from all sorts of different angles because there's been a million. I mean, like you said, there's literally a whole channel about true crime. So how do we approach serial killers in a different way? And one thing we wanted to do was talk to actors. How do you portray somebody who has this, heavy legacy? And so that was really interesting. And of course, the actor himself is the very opposite, and he's just the most delightful guy. So that was really fun. So if that's something that interests people, definitely pick the book up. We have an interview with a retired FBI agent who worked the Jeffrey Dahmer case. Wow. We have interviews, with scientists and other filmmakers. A filmmaker who did a movie called Lake Bodom in Finland, which is one of the most notorious killings ever in Finland, which they don't have a lot of violent crime like that. So that was a very important part of their history. So we talked to that filmmaker and about what it's like to sort of, again, bring that heavy legacy to the screen, because we know writing a serial killer book, you're balancing that line all the time of making sure that you're victim focused and that you're taking it seriously. But we also are known for our books and having fun too. So we wanted to sort of walk that line appropriately. Yeah.
Have you ever done a book from the serial killer's point of view?
Good question. I have written a lot of short stories, and several of them are from that point of view. I wrote a story called The Pit about a girl who it's supernatural, but she sort of uses this friendship that she has with a creature in this flooded mine pit, and they sort of work together to kill people. And so, I mean, obviously that's really a fun thing to do in fiction, is to explore these women in particular. I always try to write female driven, right from their perspective and why they're sort of choosing this repetitive anger. Again, it's funny to use the word fun, but it is fun.
I mean, I'm just wondering, like, from the psyche point of view, and it's like, I know in my books, if I can get them to like the bad guy, then it's good, because that means that they kind of are understanding where they're coming from. I was just kind of curious, because you were so into that genre, if that's something you would ever consider actually writing a book about and kind of jumping into the psyche of the serial killer.
Well, I'm working with my lit agent on a serial killer novel, I call it, about a woman who's fixated on serial killers, and she kind of accidentally stumbles across one, and because she knows so much, she's able to figure it out. And so anyway, yeah, it's something that from the time I was a kid, and I found a book about Ed Gein at my local library sale, I've just kind of been fixated on.
Nice. Well, so I guess I know in your books they're very female lead driven. I know you like to write in that point of view, which I appreciate, because I feel like us women are the most dangerous, because we we smile at your face, and we're in our mind we're totally
can be
you. So
I would rather get in a fight with a guy
Yeah.
than a girl any day. I promise
Yes.
you.
So I love that.
dirty.
So I wonder if, I mean, maybe you have done it. And I haven't found it, but is there ever a possibility of a book coming from you that's all about, you know, female serial killers? I know that there's not a whole lot of them, but there is some. Like I'm fascinated with them because I know, you know, they're just, I don't know. Women are just ruthless people sometimes, and I love it. Like, I love it.
Well, you know, I think we're all kind of fascinated by serial killers because it's such, you know, aberrant behavior. It's so out of the norm. And girl serial killers, female serial killers, that's like even stranger and smaller, you know, amount of people. So yeah, I definitely am fascinated. We do in this book, we have a chapter on Jane Toppin, Eileen Wuornos, others. I talk about Lizzie Borden, who's not a serial killer, but she's one of my most intriguing topics, something that I've, you know, always found interesting. And yeah, we definitely get into some females. There was a great book called The First Female Serial Killer. Yeah, The First Female Serial Killer, by Mary Kay McBrayer, and we interview her for our book. And that I really recommend reading too. That was a great, well-researched book. And yeah, women serial killers are fascinating.
Right? I mean, it's just, I don't know.
It's interesting.
I guess here comes the question with Bonnie and Clyde. Would you consider Bonnie like a serial type killer, or how would you classify her?
Well, you know, there's like this really stringent sort of rule of what a serial killer is, and that is somebody who kills and then has a cooling off period and then kills again.
Right.
Rather than like a mass murder or something like that. So I think Bonnie would perhaps, I mean, because I think they kill people and then they have a break and then they kill more people. I'm not entirely well versed in that research, but I mean, she's definitely up there as certainly a violent female.
Yes,
definitely. The chills are coming for Spooktober, people.
Like I said, I would much rather get in a fight with a guy than a girl because girls can play dirty.
Well, you know, I don't.
Be more vicious.
In my opinion, and I'm speaking for myself, women don't forget. I will tell you, oh yeah, it's all good. We don't forget. I remember stuff that my husband did like 8 years ago, and when he makes me mad, I'm like, you remember that you said this to me 8 years ago? I forgave you. Okay, like you blessed. You should feel blessed. Okay, you know, like things like that. So I mean, I find it fascinating because on here I am the horror gore. I love everything scary, right?
I'm not.
They are not that way. Like, that is so mean. Someone like Greg.
I'm half and half.
I was like, I love Meg. I love Meg. I have your book. Yeah, I have your books back there. You've been in my book box. Like, I'm telling you, if this October is Meg month for me. Like, I am your biggest groupie / fan ever. Okay.
That's so sweet.
Anubis, it looks like it's just me and you today.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I appreciate it from the author perspective, but I am not a creepy person. We were talking about Terror Isle. I told them if they would have to like duct tape me to a dolly to get me to go into it. I can't do creepy.
I love it though. Like, I don't know. It's like, for me, it takes it out of the norm because it's not stuff that happens all the time. It's like very rare that would happen to you. I mean, it does happen, but I don't know. It takes.
I mean, I do violent.
I'm scared.
If you read my books, I do violent, but I don't do creepy, scary. There's a fine line right there that I kind of teeter on.
Well,
you got to have a little bit of suspense, even with the fantasy. You have to have that suspense, which just builds up. But
if it makes the hair in the back of my neck stand on end, I'll grit through it. But yeah.
Now, you talked about the 19th. You had a book coming out. Do you have anything coming out soon after that, or?
Yeah, so I have a book of short stories coming out on the 26th, which is the day that we also have a Facebook party that we're celebrating. This is my third short story collection. Yep, that's the first one right there.
I told you, I am your biggest fan. I have it.
I have proof.
I do.
Yes. This is my Twisted Reveries collection. So my first book was 13 short stories, all mostly, I think they were all contemporary, different settings, different characters. My second one was my second one was that threw me off. I love that they pee a little when they're scared. Was 13 stories that take place in a fictional town I created called Willoughby. So all of the short stories take place there. And then this book that's coming out on the 26th is 13 short stories. I call them antique because they all take place either World War II or before. And I, through my nonfiction books, I've really come to love research, historical research, and also just writing my novel series as well. I sort of learned how to do, you know, time research and making sure I'm correct with era and period and everything. So I decided to kind of do a challenge to myself and write every story in a time period that is not contemporary. And it was really a fun challenge, and I think hopefully will appeal to people who like horror and like some little history and some interesting female characters.
So all of these stories are yours. They're not like a group of authors got together. They're all yours.
Right, they're all mine. Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's a collection. Yeah. So I was able to experiment, which is kind of fun. I love the short story form. You know, I'm a big fan of not only reading short stories, but also, you know, Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, all those things. I think horror especially really lends itself to short story form. And so I was able to experiment with things like an epistolary story, where it's all in letters, and a journal entry type of story, and those kinds of things that, you know, you can't necessarily stretch for a whole novel. So it was a fun challenge, and it got me through the pandemic.
There you go.
That's one of the main things. Now, of course, we do a lot of conventions, I guess, because of the con hour, concert conventions, a little bit of everything. Now, if somebody wanted to go see you somewhere, do you do horror conventions or Comic-Con conventions, both?
I've done a lot. Yep, I've done some Crypticons. I've done Wizard Worlds. I used to do the Walking Dead conventions when those were around. Now I don't have any conventions on the docket, but I am doing a book signing at Dark Delicacies, which I'm really excited about. That's a really big deal in the horror community. It's out in LA. That'll be October 16th. So I'm very excited about that. And we've got some local Minnesota events that we're doing. We're actually showing Scream up in Duluth, and we're doing a little intro beforehand about the serial killer that inspired that movie. And then we're doing down where I live in Rochester, Minnesota, which is southern Minnesota, we're presenting Psycho and talking about the sort of serial killer aspects of that. So we're doing lots of really fun events, and we just did quite a few. Like I said, my co-author is a professor, so we went and did some very professor-like talks. So I had to, you know, keep myself very professional and no swearing and all that stuff, because they were students there too. So.
Well, yeah. Well, so I'm fascinated. So I didn't realize that Scream was based off of a serial killer. I just found it funny. So
yeah.
Oh, wait, it is? For real?
Yes. So Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream, was actually sort of inspired to write his Scream because of somebody called the Gainesville Ripper in Gainesville, Florida. His name was Danny Rolling, and it was awful. It's one of the worst serial killers we had to cover in the book, and we definitely try to make a point of, you know, it's not our job to say, and then this gruesome thing happened, then this gruesome thing happened. We don't want to do that in our book. We really yes, there's a little bit of that because it's the reality, but we really try to, you know, focus on different things, and so we actually focused on the fact that Danny Rolling not only inspired Scream, but he is an artist and was selling his paintings and making financial profit off of that, which is something that there's something called the Son of Sam law that we get into about, not being able to profit off your crimes. And also a very well-educated, what would appear normal woman fell in love with him and married him while he was in prison. And so we kind of get into that phenomenon of women being attracted to serial killers too. So there's so many aspects to, take in that book.
You watch Criminal Minds a lot, don't you?
Yes, all those kinds of shows.
I mean, I'm all for like the supernatural type creepy, but when it comes to serial killers, that's a little bit too real for me. So
See,
yeah,
I'm
I appreciate it from the
fascinated.
writing perspective, but yeah.
She says that, but ask her who's coming next Friday and who's going to freak her out, or this Friday actually.
Well, yeah, but that's like, that's a little bit different.
Did it
Like,
know.
I
I've
sit there and
always-
watch Supernatural all day, though. I mean, I can deal with that, but yeah.
I've always been so fascinated. Like I got my psychology degree. This sounds so bad, but not because of serial killers, but that's like the lack of better way to say it. Yeah, because like I took a forensic class and it was, like getting into the mind of a serial killer. And so we had all these former FBI agents and stuff would come and talk to us about these cases and the reality that they have. And, they communicate with them, they send them artwork and all this stuff, and so we talked about it because originally, I wanted to do my psychology degree and go into prisons and talk and figure out, psychologically what's going on, what makes them different, so that's why I guess maybe that's why I like horror, because I'm just like, what makes you tick that way, like
yes.
that's
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. And,
or like what's turned off in your brain that makes you think that way.
Right. And really in horror in general, it's like when I was growing up, pre-internet, I didn't know girls like me who loved horror.
Yeah.
And so you almost feel like you have to apologize for it or, and you get a lot of people who have really bad reactions and are like, horror. I mean, oh my goodness. And I'm pretty used to that. But thankfully, as I've gotten older and more comfortable in my skin, it's like, yep, this is who I am. And, I've met so many people who feel the same way. And Amy, you could do it. I could see you in there like
I would love it.
To these hardened criminals.
Oh, she'd be
I
laughing
have
at
faith
them. I'm
in
telling you
you.
right now.
I'm telling you, that's why I got my degree, because my degree is in research psychology. I had to write research papers. That's what my undergrad is in, and my whole goal was to go, get my counseling degree and stuff in psychology, but with a focus to go in and talk to them. And I don't know. I can see myself doing it, but still.
That's awesome. I think that's awesome. I mean, yeah, there's just, what messed you up so bad that you do these things?
Right?
I could actually see Amy doing that, though. I could see you doing that.
And
You would be in there kind of trying to, okay, what's making them tick?
I
be
don't know.
cracking up. And,
It's fascinating to know, because it's not like there's just one, right? Obviously there's several of them, right? I mean, it's not the majority of the population, but there's obviously several. Okay. So something has caused this.
Right.
It's not just like one in a million, right?
Right.
And things like that make my brain tick. And so I
Right.
feel like that's why I'm your biggest fan, because I'm like, she gets me,
I totally get you.
And she's
Yeah,
normally
the
stuck
big
with
thing-
us.
The big thing I always say is, as long as we don't put them on pedestals, as long as we realize they're jerks and that what they did was awful, we can poke at them like scientists and try to figure out what's going on in there, because it's fascinating.
Anubis is cracking me up over there.
I love Anubis. Anubis. I love it. You're after my heart. Now, I know in a conversation that me and you have had before, we were talking about, is there environmental factors and stuff like that come to play? And so I want to get your opinion on that. Do you think that some serial killers are just formed or come out of a certain environment, or would it kind of just deal with, like CJ said, a switch not being off, or
Right.
what is your take on that?
A little both.
I think it's a combination of things. I don't think there's one thing that makes you a serial killer. I think that it's several things that happen. Whether part of that is, there's a genetic component, whether you have like a narcissistic personality disorder or something like that. And again, somebody who has that isn't gonna, 99% aren't gonna become serial killers. So there's a combination. Like we were talking about before, there's this idea that there could be environmental factors like lead in the environment, which is a really fun rabbit hole that I went down, and would explain why serial killing is down 85% in the last 3 decades. Now, I'm not saying that if you licked lead as a kid, you became a serial killer. It's just one factor that could, play with other factors. There's also quite a lot of evidence that a lot of our sort of main serial killers had head trauma when they were children. There is also the fact that most serial killers had extreme abuse in their lives. Richard Ramirez, if you sort of read about his history, you'd say, why wouldn't he be a serial killer based on the things that he went through? So, but then there's Jeffrey Dahmer, who had a perfectly normal childhood. And was not physically or mentally abused, as far as we know. So there's just all these different elements, and it makes, as a nonfiction writer, it makes it fascinating, like the psychology and all those things. And as a fiction writer, I get to use all this information and
scare the pants off of everybody.
And scare the pants off everybody, which is what I want to do. So yeah.
Now you were talking about all sorts of stuff. Like I said, I do watch a lot of the criminal shows. Criminal Minds says one of the things we just binge watched not too long ago. But they talk about triggers. Do you think that there's certain triggers with these people? Or do you think it's, like you just said, everything combined? Or is there something that just actually sets them off where they go into?
Well, I think sometimes there's that one particular moment that kind of, sets it all in motion. Maybe there have been people who have been set up environmentally and genetically to be serial killers, but that trigger never came. But for people like, there's the whole, this is kind of a well-known one, but that Ted Bundy was rejected by a woman that looked a certain way with long brown hair. And then that was kind of what, sparked him to, and whether that's true or not, we don't know. But, yes, I think that oftentimes there is that particular trigger. Often with female serial killers, they have all those elements, and then it comes down to they need security, they need financial. A lot of female serial killers.
Anubis! Oh my gosh! Anubis, man, let me hug you. I'm so sorry. You poor thing. Ron, why did you drink lead?
I love him.
What is your problem drinking lead? Okay. And then,
Glad when you pop up here, Anubis, because it's never going to be boring.
If you were dropped on your head as a toddler, who wasn't? Okay, I mean, let's be real. If you weren't dropped on your head, I don't know what's wrong with you, because I was. My sister dropped me down the stairs. Okay, I'm just saying, and I'm normal-ish.
Yeah.
As the one who loves creepy and zombie and Walking Dead, and sure, no problem, you're normal.
I love all that. Well, Meg, so I know you're a horror writer, and obviously I know that. So what got you into writing that way?
Well, I was a book nerd from day one. So just as much as I absolutely loved horror from day one, I absolutely love books. And those were my, I moved around a lot as a kid, and those were like my constant. I always had kind of a little safe space in my house to read. That was important to me. And writing just was a natural natural interest. My dad, and both my parents are bookworms, and my dad is a writer. And so it was just like from day one, this is what I want to do with my life. And I went through a stage where I wanted to be like, I wanted to write literary fiction because I was a literature major in school, and I love all the classics and things like that. But something wasn't clicking, and I realized it was because I was ignoring that I wanted to be a horror writer. And once I accepted that about myself, everything's been gravy.
Nice.
Very nice. Now, I'm trying to think of everything I can here. I mean, we've covered a lot with serial killers. We
Yeah.
covered out with your books that are coming out. Now, you have an agent that you publish with. You didn't do indie like me and CJ are indie.
I've had 6 books published through Inklings Publishing out of Houston with the wonderful firm Brady. And that was all without an agent. So I just signed on with a lit agent for this novel I'm working on now. So this is a whole new experience. And it's been great so far. She's really helping me and guiding me. And so it's just, a whole nother experience. And then I have this 4th nonfiction book coming out, and that was with my co-author Kelly Florence, and we have that through Skyhorse, which is distributed by Simon and Schuster, and that was all without an agent as well. So I've been able to get this far without an agent, but I felt it was time to sort of have that kind of next help and have somebody on my side guiding me. So yeah, that's a whole new thing. So I've been indie published. Yeah.
So I do have another question. Out of all the serial killers that you've researched over your time, which one's the most fascinating to you and why?
Okay. I would say, like Amy was saying, I really am fascinated by the women. So as I mentioned, that Jane Toppin book that I read, and we interviewed the author, that one in particular, she had, not the greatest childhood. And you read about that and you kind of have this empathy toward her, but then something turns and she uses her position as a nurse to hurt people. And that's a fascinating turn, because I think especially as women too, we can kind of empathize with women who've gone through hard times. But then there's that turn where you can't feel that for her anymore, and you start to really see the horrific things that she did, and for no good reason. And so that one really stays with me. And then there's also a book called Man on the Train. And that one, I interviewed one of the co-authors, and it's unsolved, and it's about this axe murder that goes across the country in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and killed all sorts of people. And again, it's unsolved, and that one was really, really fascinating too.
There's one for you. Monsters Inside.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't watched that one.
They do have a lot of criminal elements, like on Netflix, I think.
Oh yeah.
Manhunt was one that they had, which really interesting because it gives you a lot of the background, and it sounds like you do a lot of the background with all the serial killers and stuff like that for this upcoming book, which is quite fascinating.
Oh, thank you.
And it's, like I said, it's one of those chill, I'm getting my goosebumps. Now, wait, I heard a baby, I think.
Yeah.
Did I hear a baby?
Don't tell
I was unmuted and then I quickly muted myself again. But no, I guess my one question for you, Meg, is where is your writing going to take you next? Are you dabbling into anything else? Are we eventually going to, see a Meg book come to life? What?
I would love that.
You?
So I also have been lucky enough to secure a TV and film agent. So we're working on all sorts of stuff. And one of which script that I co-wrote with Kelly, my bestie and my co-author, called Horror Rewind, the Video Store, which part of it is named after our podcast. But we wrote a television script, and that was a selection at the Catalyst TV Institute Fest just this past weekend. So that was really exciting because we got to hear our script be read by SAG AFTRA actors, which was really cool. That was just a little preview of what it would be like to have a TV show. And then we've got a few other TV shows in development. So, screenwriting was kind of, again, sort of a natural thing because I'm a huge movie nerd as well, and TV. And my friend Kelly is as well. And we just feel that there's so much space for female driven diverse horror, and TV and film are just a natural place to go. So
Now, I was giving everybody the chance to ask this question, but since they haven't yet, you actually had a drink made for one of your books.
Oh, yes.
yes.
And Amy
I
just
did.
walked
So-
away and she has the
I
recipe.
I know, and she's got it.
Yeah.
But yes, my friend Lisa Bull, she's a very talented actress, and she's also a really talented mixologist. And Kelly and I have
She's looking for it.
She's looking for it. There it is. We have a podcast called Horror Rewind, and Lisa has done drinks for movies on there before, like themed. And so she got the idea to do one for my novel, Her Dark Inheritance, which is a novel series. That's the first one. And oh, look, Amy's got
I think
it.
that is a brilliant idea. I've never heard of that. I think that's brilliant.
Do you want the whole series? I do have it. It makes me look
Okay.
bad, but I got it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think CJ is not quite ready. She hasn't graduated to that yet.
No, I'm not quite there yet. But, the drink thing does fascinate me. So what's in the drink?
Well, and it was
I may
really
have to
clever
drink that in order to read it.
I just got thirsty.
Ooh, yes, Anubis. All right, it's drink time somewhere.
Ooh,
Yeah.
it's really clever because
So-
she thought of these things like there's mint in it because Daphne has a really sensitive stomach. That's the main character, and she's always sucking on mints. She has kind of anxiety, and so there's mint in the drink, and then there's lingonberries because those are Minnesota berries. So she was very thoughtful about this recipe. So it meant a lot, and I've drank it, and it was wonderful.
Do we
Yeah,
need to
I-
know what else is in it?
I highly recommend it. Okay, like I'm just saying. Yes. There's
we
vodka
get-
in it.
Anu-
Okay, there's vodka. What else
Do
do
we
you
get,
need to know?
do we get to have the recipe at any
No,
point in time?
no.
Or do we
Actually-
at least get to know what's
No.
in it?
Actually, it was in the very first book box that Amy did.
Yeah.
It was.
Yes.
I took a photo. I'll post it so Anubis can have it. I'll share
Yeah.
Anubis just because you're my drinking buddy, man.
Drinking your work.
Yeah.
Like I said, I may need to drink that before I pick the book up. I'm just
No, I'm telling you,
Yes,
it's one of those.
drink that. That'll take the edge off, and then
Yeah.
you can get scared.
so
I know.
then
Liquor alone, man.
go
Yeah.
somewhere creepy. They're gonna have to duct tape and feed me the drink and then take
See,
me.
vodka is
Yeah.
a plus, Anubis. You're a man after my heart, man. Vodka, yeah.
Okay, I'm normally a tequila type based drinker, so this will be interesting.
Oh, you know what? My husband, he went to some big conference, and water wasn't on the bar menu for like I don't know what. I think it was just his excuse to party because he had to party. And he was like, "Yeah, so I wanted something with water in it." So he did, instead of a gin and tonic, it was a tequila and club soda. Now that to me, I am a whiskey bourbon girl. That's me. But a tequila and club soda, I don't know if I can get down with that. I don't know. I like
There
my
you go,
world,
Anubis. No, I would rather just take the shot and then drink the soda separate. I don't know that I put the two together.
I'd rather have the coffee with maybe some Baileys.
I'd
That's
rather
about it
I
for
like
me.
that.
I make Bailey brownies. I make red velvet brownies, and
Oh.
instead of like the water, I put Bailey's in it.
I'd be up for
That
that.
could be.
It's good.
That sounds good.
I'd just drink the bottle. I mean, I don't know why you guys trying to act all subtle like we don't drink all the time,
Yeah,
Amy. Like
I
I'm just
know.
gonna drink the bottle in my closet hiding from my kids.
Right,
Like
I
there's
was
nothing
gonna
wrong.
say,
I drink
Kids too.
maybe
There you go. Yeah,
2 or 3
Yeah,
times
yes,
a year. Of course, this year has been a little bit out of sort, so actually I've had 3 already. But
See, Meg gets it though. She's like, yes, I would. I will go drink the bottle in the closet.
Yeah,
night.
I do.
I'll get
I
it.
do try to avoid tequila though. It makes me very emotional. I end up crying if I drink
Mhm.
tequila. So I try to stick with the vodka, and of course wine and beer and all that. But
Well, yes.
once
yeah.
tequila just brings out the emotions in me, and I start waterworks.
I'm fine with them. Like, yeah, I'm fine with tequila. The other
No.
ones just
No.
they don't taste well to me. So
Out
I
of
don't
a
know.
boot? No, is that like an
No.
A&M thing? Like when you chug the beer for your ring? Is it like that? I'm not getting that. I'm sorry, Anubis. Usually I can help you out, man, but I can't help you out here. Like I just no.
What?
That,
Why's it got to be an old Greg reference? I mean, sitting here with.
He's calling you old. That's
He's
it.
got Greg's number now.
I love it. He
you're
makes fun of
you're in
Greg
trouble now.
Anubis. I love it. I love
It's
it.
an SNL video. He says, sending you the link
Oh, yeah.
now.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Send it.
When he mentioned boot, I was thinking like the glass boots where you put the beer in the boot is what I was thinking.
Those are
but
cute.
I'm just
Oh,
saying
yeah.
that's kind of
Yeah.
where I was going with it, thinking he was heading. But an actual boot,
Well, you know,
I mean, I've seen
to
and
each their
I've seen some weird
drinking
stuff.
own,
Yeah.
So
okay?
an F1.
However
In
you
F1,
choose
there's-
to drink, however, it's all for you, man. We are not one drink. Drinkers unite, okay? However you want to do it.
Just
do
like
it, okay?
readers,
There's-
read
yeah.
any genre you want, drink however you want.
Exactly. There's
Yeah.
a racer in Formula One named Daniel Ricciardo, and he used to do it was called shoeies. Whenever he won, he'd take his shoe off and he put the champagne in it. He'd drink from the shoe. So
definitely.
Well, now, okay. I'm not going to judge that, but that's kind of odd. But
That's
okay.
out
it's
there.
fun. It's fun. I wouldn't do it because I'm too much of a germaphobe to do that one, but I'm just saying.
Anyway, I
My
do want to
OCD would kick
announce.
in.
I do want to announce next Friday we have Ghost Talk. Ghost Talk. Now I got to remember the name of the. I know it's Ghost Talk. It's Elizabeth Harbin and her partner, Dr. Chuck Murphy, and they're going to be talking paranormal. We're going to be asking them about their most haunted experience because
Now-
that's going to be fun.
He's doing this
Cool.
at 6 o'clock at night, which is
Yes.
only about
Ooh.
4 hours before
Hey,
bedtime.
so
I'm just
fun
saying.
fact. Let me fun fact this just to put CJ over the edge for the month. I'm gonna do this with no lights on in my room. I'm gonna just have a colored mask on. Okay,
I'm
I'm telling you, it's just.
I'm telling you.
I need
From
to
what
just
I've
sit in
been
front of the
told-
computer and I'll just say Amy 3 times and she's gonna pop up out of my
From-
screen.
From what I've been told, is they're going to have a little reader there, so if there's actually anything speaking, we might be able to hear it too. So
All right, so Amy's lights definitely need to be off. Okay.
As long as it's not
Got it.
behind my green screen, it's okay.
And the other thing is I do want to announce we are having our costume competition, which is in the announcements on our page. So people, please put in your pictures. There is no entry fee for you to win.
I've
You
seen
just
some
have to
really good
post it on our group Facebook page. So definitely do
What
that.
do you get if you win?
Well, first place is going to actually be a T-shirt of our logo, which is right up there in Amy's corner,
Nice.
and the coffee cup. Second place is just going to be the T-shirt, and third place is just going to be the coffee cup.
Very
And I don't have my coffee cup near me, so you can't pull that up.
I used
Amy.
it this morning. I
You
did.
did.
Go get it, Amy.
Also, this weekend I'll be doing Tyler Comic Con, so I'll be grabbing some interviews here and there throughout the con and be posting them. I probably won't post them live. I'll probably post them throughout the day to kind of spread them out a little bit. But I'll be doing some from Tyler Comic Con, and then of course we'll do our collective video at the end of the con.
Nice. And
Mhm.
let's see, we have the competition. The other competition that we have going on is to be a guest co-host, but we have to reach 250 on
Oh,
YouTube.
there's the mug.
There it
is.
is.
I like that.
But
See,
250
it's
on
like a- is that a
YouTube.
skull?
Okay, so 250, and we're
Well,
up to what,
then,
Yep.
177? I
horror.
think I saw last.
We are at 144, so we are 100
144.
away.
So 100,
So-
106. I'm not a math genius, but I'm pretty sure that's 106.
So get in there and we can get you on as a guest co-host, but we will have
Be
to talk
fun.
to our guests to make sure it's going to be okay with them. So it's going to be, we're going to get you in there. We just don't know which show.
So how do we determine who the guest co-host will be?
When we will do a spinning wheel with Amy.
We're gonna do the wheel of
It's
Nick.
gonna be one jam-packed wheel. Are we gonna do like a little at a time and then take the top
No,
winners and
we're
do
gonna
it
do-
again?
No,
Put
it's
them
going to be
in
all
there,
at once.
okay?
All 250?
Yes.
Wow.
This is a one-time. This is a one-time shot.
So
There
what
you
you're
go.
saying is I get to put my name in there 249 times.
Mhm.
I'll leave
If-
one time for CJ.
If you have that many YouTube accounts, I bow down to you.
No, I only have like 6 or 7, man. I only have 6 or 7. Okay, like I don't have that many.
Like I said, I'm
Now, I
bow
have
down
a
to you.
feeling what she's gonna do is if Anubis subscribes, she's gonna have 249 of
I
Anubis
already have that.
to
I
kind of
already
lead
have
him
it.
towards it.
I already planned it in my mind. Anubis, you've won in my mind. Okay, in my mind.
But it will be fun. We do promise that, but we do have to get up to our 250 mark. And like I said, we're moving ourselves up slowly. We're not trying to rush at this. So definitely let your friends know, your family know, hey, we are here and we are here to stay. We are growing. We're posting on Comic Con Network. We're posting in Nerd Fest, a few other groups that are in the Houston area.
And
We're
we're
on
fun.
YouTube,
Come
we're
have
on
fun
Twitter.
with us.
And we have people listening to us worldwide.
Yeah.
Like I said, it is worldwide. I do know Philippines. I do know Dublin, Ireland. I do know
Yeah,
London. But
Ireland.
we appreciate all of you that come to the show. So
And we
definitely
love
get
the
in
ones
there.
that comment. For example, today is Anubis, Julie, Brock, Kathy Hayek. Love to have you all on here. I don't know if I missed anybody or not because my things aren't loading. But
Amy commented.
oh, Amy commented. Amy's been commenting the whole
Oh
time
my
though.
gosh, you're funny. I just replied.
Amy
I replied to
commented.
Kathy's comment, but yeah.
Yep. And Greg commented and I commented. Usually I can keep up with it, but for some reason it's not populating. But we love getting comments from y'all. So if you are especially on Facebook, make sure to give StreamYard permission to see your name so we can actually see who you are.
Well, the thing is with Facebook groups are kind of messing things up right
Mhm.
now.
Just subscribed. I'm not sure who that was.
Kathy?
Give you a big thumbs up there. But anyway,
Give you two.
Meg, we want to thank you for being on our show. We enjoyed having you, and it was, like I said, very fascinating. And I actually learned a lot today. I don't know
From the
about the other two, but I learned a
From the
ton today.
psychology standpoint, I may actually try one of those, but I'm going to have my margarita first. Just
Well,
Okay.
But from the
I
psychology
like
standpoint,
that.
because I'm fascinated with people and
Yeah.
what makes them tick. So the serial killers one actually sounds really fascinating to me. But again, I'd have to have a margarita or two before.
that's great. I
That's
love
fair. Our next book coming out next October is Science of Witchcraft. So I don't know
Ooh.
if that scares you less or more, but
I love it.
that's been a really fun one.
I know
talked-
people into Reiki and stuff like that, so that
Yeah,
would
we
actually
talked
be
to
fitting.
really interesting people. So yes. And you can follow me. I have a website, Meg Hafdahl, but also I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm also we have a TikTok, which is Kelly Florence and Meg Hafdahl together, and we do little science facts on there and stuff. So
Well, it was a
Nice.
pleasure to talk to you and a pleasure to meet you.
thank you.
I have heard
Yeah.
about
Thank
you.
so
So
much.
I love
Anyway.
it.
Anyway, everyone, we will be back Friday night with Ghost Talk, Elizabeth Harbin and Dr. Chuck Murphy. They do have books. I will be posting that probably tomorrow. They sent me a whole bunch of stuff for everybody to look into. They are ghost hunters. She is a psychic medium. So it is going to be a fun show.
be
Definitely.
prepared to be scared. Just saying.
Can't wait.
Anyway,